Restoring Minute History. Steve Jobs said this: "I'm convinced that the only thing that kept me going was that I loved what I did." You've got to find what you love. And that is as true for your work as it is for your lovers. Your work is going to fill a large part of your life. And the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking. Don't settle. As with all matters of the heart, you'll know when you find it. And like any great relationship, it just gets better and better as the years go on. So keep looking till you find it. Don't settle. Stephen Jobs said that at commencement address at Stanford years and years ago. In fact, it's a fantastic speech we might come back to, but today is life lessons and business lessons from Stephen Jobs and a book recommendation. Walter Isaacson wrote a phenomenal book on Steve Jobs. We just did the Elon Musk one. Today's the Stephen Jobs one. Stephen Jobs. Fantastic words. Passion and love what you're doing. Have you found what you love? Are you looking for it? That's the first thing I wanted to start with, and then we'll go into this piece. There was so much confusion after the biography was written that Walter Isaacson then wrote a piece. He called it 14 Leadership Lessons from Stephen Jobs. We're going to go through it. Brian Chafin at MacWorldObserver.com summed it up and took some of the best points from it. We're going to go through that and a few other things. And this is what Isaacson wrote: "In the months since my biography of Jobs came out, countless commentators have tried to draw management lessons from it." Mr. Isaacson wrote, "Some of those readers have been insightful, but I think many of them, especially with those with no experience in entrepreneurship, fixate too much on the rough edges of the personality. It is through the book, but I took away more than that. I took away the great lessons from a great man." And we try to give you value here. I hope it gives you value of looking at what some of these great men like Elon Musk, Richard Branson, and they have done and accomplished. And Stephen Jobs accomplished a lot. And I loved a lot of things about that biography and about Stephen Jobs. How he went for beauty in a world that beauty has kind of gone awry, right? Mr. Isaacson pointed out that managers who have decided that the path to greatness is to be a jerk are missing the point. He argued eloquently that the rough edges of Mr. Jobs' personality are only part of the equation. More importantly, the bigger part of the equation is to have the vision. Boy, Steve Jobs had the vision, and he had the skills to back it up. Do you have a vision for your life? Do you have a vision for your business? So he broke it down in this piece. We're going to go through it. He did a lot of research on Stephen Jobs like he did for Musk. Interviewed countless people. So it's a pretty amazing biography that we recommend here by Isaacson. And his number one point, now I already talked about passion because I wanted to start off with passion because I think passion is incredibly important if you want to do great things. What he talks about, he mentions this for leadership, is focus. And I think that's true. If you're not focused, how can your team be focused? If you don't have a clear vision and focus for what you want to accomplish, how can everybody around you know what they're supposed to be doing and how to get it? Isaacson wrote about that focus. And when Jobs came back, what did he look at? He started doing what? Throwing away products, and simplifying the products, paring them down, taking all the unnecessary parts out of them, taking all the unnecessary products out of the company. Focusing on what? He looked at everything: services, marketing, products, packaging, even the buttons. And it's amazing the detail he went into. You can read that in the book. And there's an example in the book where he talks to Larry Page, where he tells Larry Page that he's in danger of becoming like Microsoft because the company has no focus. You got to have focus. Maintain your focus, because I believe, and this has happened to me, people will try to take you off focus. They may even have fantastic intentions. They may just think you're taking too much of a risk or too many risks. So they may have great intentions, but you got to keep your focus. I like to remind myself of the vision all the time. You can write it down, we've told you that, and have it on your computer, write it down on paper so that you know your vision well and you can pursue it when everybody else is trying to take you off that vision or steer you in a different direction, whether it's your parents, your friends, or someone else, your business associates, people in the company. I don't know whom it's going to be. Number two, simplify. Steve Jobs was the master at this. You can tell it in the details of the books that Isaacson gets into. What did he want to do? He wanted to simplify the user experience. He had a focus also on the customer and making that experience from the opening of the box. I got my MacBook Pro, it's this fantastic packaging. I got my iPhone, it's fantastic packaging. From the packaging on, he wants it to be an experience, a phenomenal user experience, but he wants to simplify the phone, how you use it, the computer, how you use it. Make it easy for the customer. Make it easier for the experience of the customer and the user. Steve Jobs thought about the user. How many executives do that? How many companies do that? And he tasked his executives with finding industries ripe for disruption because he thought they made products that were too complicated for the user. Services that were too complicated. So he would look for this. So that's an opportunity for you today. Think about that right now or after this video. What do you think is too complicated that you could change, that you can make better? What are you working on that you can simplify? Making it have a better user interface, if that's the case. Are you thinking about the users and making it easier for them? He was always thinking about the user experience. How it looked, the beauty of it. Steve Jobs was obsessed with the beauty of things. Take responsibility end to end. This is one of the categories that might be thought of as a business model, he says. Isaacson makes the case that Steve Jobs' preferred model of controlling the entire product. And that's in the book. He does that. He's involved in everything, marketing, services, how it's going to handle the packaging. He's going through each detail end to end. How many executives do that? They turn it over, right? How many visionaries are there that can't even do that? See, you got to start with that strong vision and focus. He knew his vision best, so he took it through end to end. He went to all those meetings with people and he challenged them. It's got to be this way, he said. You got to do it this way. No, it's not good enough. You got to do this. When behind Leapfrog, Steve Jobs was terrified when he realized that Apple had missed it when it came to burning CDs with its original iMac. His solution, according to Isaacson, was to leapfrog the competition with the iPod and iTunes. Key lesson here is what? You shouldn't be thinking about catch-up, thinking about how to get way, way ahead of them. That's the lesson there. So what are you working on today that you could go way ahead of people on, that you could take to a much higher level? That's a huge one, and it always has struck me the next one. This one really made me respect Steve Jobs even more. Put products before profits. How many CEOs do that? How many companies do that? Put products before profits. How many creators think that way? Doesn't happen from a lot of committees, does it? Steve Jobs spoke at length that Apple's philosophy is to focus on making great products, and that by doing so, what? Profits will take care of themselves, right? Salespeople and accountants tend to do what? Accountants, CFOs tend to think of what? The profits, right? And that's okay, but that's just, you have to keep the vision if you're the visionary. Strive for excellence, not mediocrity. Jobs believed that was a recipe for mediocrity, to think that way. He wanted greatness. He wanted excellence. Don't be a slave to focus groups. You see that in the movie business sometimes. You see that in other areas. Why was that for Steve Jobs? When Steve Jobs was asked by a member of the original Mac development team if they should run something by a focus group, he famously said this, and you might have heard it. I had heard it before the book. No, because customers don't know what they want until we've shown them. That's great belief in oneself, right? And understanding the customer. Going back to vision, it takes someone with great vision to be able to do that, right? By definition, how many people have that kind of vision? Very few, right? You always meet people that don't even know what they want to do, and that's okay. We hope they find it, but they don't even know what they want to do. And then when they have something, they're not sure. You'll say, hey, what's the plan on that? What are you trying to do with that? They go, I don't know. I haven't thought that through, right? You meet that all the time. At least I do. Reality distortion filled, one of my favorite parts of the book. He made others believe they could do the impossible. Now, he had to believe it first, right? And then he convinced them, persuaded them to do it. He had a charisma, he had a magic about him. Bill Gates talked about it. He was like a magician. He could mesmerize people, make them believe they could do the impossible. What did it do? Made the A players much better, right? Push them to reach their potential. Push the product to reach its potential. He was the master of it. It's quite famous now. Wiki states, in the book Steve Jobs, biographer Walter Isaacson states around 72 that while Jobs was attending Reed College, Robert Friedland taught Steve the reality distortion field. The RDF was said by Andy Hertzfeld to be Jobs' ability to convince himself and others around him to believe almost anything with a mix of charm, charisma, bravado, and hyperbole, and marketing appeasement and persistence. Steve Jobs had persistence. And that really stood out to me in the book. I think you'll find it fascinating when you reach and grab this book. Convince yourself, know that it can be done, and then convince others that it can be done. If you want to achieve great things, you're going to have to convince others to do it too. Impute. The cover really does matter. You heard the old saying in the book, don't judge a book by its cover. Well, Stephen Jobs thought that packaging, that cover, and I do believe in that. It did matter, right? The packaging he puts it in, it's an experience to open an iMac Book Pro or an iPhone, right? Steve Jobs obsessed over the packaging. I remember that in great details. He was involved in the tiny details of packaging and marketing and everything. And that's a big part of the lessons you're learning here today. His attention to everything and his attention to the beauty of it and the simplicity of it. He was good. He cared how it was going to come out. He cared about the customer. What did he want? Excellence, greatness. Push for perfection. What would it be if more pushed for perfection? Greatness, right? Now, I understand if you're in a minimal viable product and you don't have the resources, you got to get a minimal viable product. That's not what we're talking about. But he pushed for it. Back in the day when Mac versus Windows was the platform that mattered, we at the Mac Observer frequently and loudly argued what set Apple apart from the competition is the problem with Windows World settled for good enough. Steve Jobs wanted perfection. And Isaacson said that was a big part of why he was successful. He did not want mediocrity. He wanted excellence. He wanted his product to be the best it could be. And he grabbed for it. He reached for it. And he pushed others to grab and reach for it. Okay, he tolerated only A players. There's a lot of yelling in the book and where he's really harsh to people. Isaacson thought that was a good thing, the rough edges, because he thought that kept the B players from gaining a foothold at Apple and keeping the A players at the top and in charge. So there was a method. That's the lesson there. There was a method to Stephen Jobs and his madness, it says. So they did. It did work out well, right? Apple reached greatness when Stephen Jobs was there. And he pushed his people to achieve more than they believed they could. Engage face-to-face. This is a big one. I think this is a key today with all the texting and everything and social media. Steve Jobs sat down face-to-face to go through things with people. Isaacson said that was a key to his success. Instead of emailing, he wanted to sit down face-to-face. I think that helped with the greatness. So did Isaacson. Know both the big picture and the details. Stephen Jobs was into the tiny details of that packaging, of that phone, of everything. And that's a rare combination, right? The combination of a visionary who's also involved in the details. Can you do both? I don't know, but he did. Combine the humanities with the sciences. Isaacson calls out a big picture idea with this category. He argues that Mr. Jobs was focused on the idea of marrying the humanities with science. It's true, he goes through that. Lastly, I just wanted to put this in, and it's from the commencement speech at Stanford. I want to come back to that, and we could do that whole speech is just phenomenal. But he gave this, when I was young, there was an amazing publication called The Whole Earth Catalog. This is Stephen Jobs, which was one of the Bibles of my generation. It was created by a fellow named Stuart Brand, not far from here in Menlo Park, and he brought it to life with his poetic touch. This was in the late 1960s, before personal computers and desktop publishing, so it was all made with typewriters, scissors, and Polaroid cameras. It was sort of like Google in paperback form 35 years before Google came along. It was idealistic and overflowing with neat tools and great notions. Stuart and his team put out several issues of the Whole Earth Catalog. And then when it had run its course, they put out a final issue. It was in the mid-1970s. On the back cover of their final issue was a photograph of an early morning country road, the kind you might find yourself hitchhiking on it if you were so adventurous. Beneath it were the words, "Stay hungry, stay foolish." It was their farewell message as they signed off. Stay hungry, stay foolish. And I've always wished that for myself, Stephen Jobs said. So we'll end with this. I hope this was some value and you picked up something that will help you in life. I hope the book will be of value if you read it. Keep learning, keep growing, stay hungry, stay foolish.